again to the 2026 Rare Disease Day. Greetings from whichever part of the world you are joining in. Welcome to the Rare Disease Day here. Thank you for joining today. I'm going to quickly run through in 5 minutes an update from the organization before we have this meet and greet, before we have this innovation in rare disease conversation. So let me walk through that. So IndoUSrare was founded in 2019 with a focus on key gap where we found that the Indian diaspora and the South Asian origin is underrepresented in the rare disease, and there is also a lot of demand in terms of accelerating therapies and being patient data availability in fostering rare disease research and therapies. So we founded this organization to collaborate with all the stakeholders across the world on various areas that includes academia, industry partners, physicians, patients, patient advocates, caregivers, and government to come together to solve this complex and a hard problem for finding solutions to rare diseases. There are about 11,000 plus rare diseases as defined by FDA. And there are different definitions for what is a rare disease across the world. Whereas FDA defines, every country has its own definitions. FDA's definition is any disease that affects 200,000 or fewer people in the United States are considered rare. There are 11,000 plus classified diseases, and among them, only 5% of them have any therapies or solutions. So we find that the majority of the clinical trials and the research are right now focused in the United States and the Europe. And there is a large volume, a large population of people across the world that are underrepresented. And Indian diaspora and the South Asian diaspora in specific are again a very large group of people. In India alone, there are expected to be about 70 million rare disease patients. In the US, it's about 30 million. And there are about 300 million rare disease patients all over the world. And this is a significant group of people that would need therapies, that would need diagnostics to get diagnoses and things like that. So that is where we come in, and we want to advocate for more collaboration globally, specifically with the Indian diaspora in enriching the genetic databases, enriching the research fraternity, as there are so many research collaborations that could potentially happen in addressing the rare diseases. Our mission is to connect stakeholders, like I said, across academia, industry partners, physicians, patients, patient advocates, caregivers, and the government in finding therapies and diagnostics. We do various programs, conferences, awareness sessions, bridging, summits, and advocacy work. These are our key programs. Patient is our center point. We want to help patients that are available, that want any support, please reach out to us. I will talk about the patient concierge program. We are here to help patients in getting connected to the right resources across the world. And we also have education, outreach, and awareness, which is very significantly lacking across the world about rare diseases. And that is why we have this session today with Reena and Dr. Levine. And then we also have research programs, which Reena is heading, and we have corporate alliance to work with the corporate partners. And then we have patient concierge to help the patients, like I said, patient alliance program, which helps us connect with all the patient advocates group across the globe. And we also do policy advocacy, both India, US, and all parts of the world. So like I highlighted, these are the key programs that come under each of those major areas. We do one of the things that we're going to talk about today is Pitch for Rare, and they're going to present their update so far. And we also have an internship program that is structured and has been going on for the last 6 years. We've had more than 100 interns that worked with us, contributed their time and talent to us. And we also have these working groups where you can participate and help advance various initiatives. We have a technology-enabled patient concierge. So far, we have helped about 205 different inquiries across 15 countries and 100 plus rare diseases, where you can submit a request secured in a secured portal that can be shared across experts, and we help connecting resources across the globe. We have about 68 patient advocacy groups that partner with us, and we meet with them quarterly, and we also amplify their voices, and we bring highlights to what conditions they represent and what resources that are available for them to work with. Research programs, we do awareness, education, and outreach. We also take up grants and we execute them. We have done a lot of previous work on various studies and publishing white papers, publishing various articles, and raising awareness about various conditions and various economic background and information like that. One of our key programs is always the Rare Disease Day celebrations. This is where many organizations across the globe come together. These are rare disease groups, foundations that come together to amplify the voices for all the rare disease patients. Like I said, 1 in 10 people are expected to have a link to rare diseases in the world, and there are about 300 million rare disease patients. Individually, although they may be rare, collectively, they are common. One would not see that. Working groups, we have newborn screening working group. We are also working towards increasing representation of Indian diaspora, South Asian diaspora in clinical trials. There are, the biggest challenge is patient recruitment, and this is where we feel there is a lot of, resources across both the countries, both the continents, where we can leverage the patient populations, as well as the research partnerships. There is quite a lot of technical partnerships and collaborations that can happen. And we also do legislative advocacy, financial advocacy working groups, and we have a lot of experts and industry experts and research academia experts come together in these panels. So feel free to bring in the people that you are in touch with to participate in any of our programs. If there are patients, please do refer to us. And so on. That's the action that I would request of you. Let me take just a minute more. These are the various internship contributions that we have had. We've had publications, we've had poster presentations, we have stellar interns right from high school to postgraduate programs, researchers that contribute to our programs. And we have so far had the updates from Pitch Fair Rare. We will hear from them later in this meeting. One of our key events every year is the summit, the annual summit. We've been alternating between US and India every year annually, and we've had a lot of progress on various initiatives through these summits. We make a leap and bounds of progress in these. This is our highlight of all the events hosted, the funds raised so far. Tremendous support from the community. We've had so many people supporting us in our initiatives, and our call for action today for all of you is to see how you can bring in the support to us or bring in connections to us. We are here for helping people get connected to the right resources. Let me quickly move to the next part. Let me introduce Reena Kartha, our Director of Research. And these are the key things. Keep your video off, microphones muted. Over to Reena Kartha. She's our research director. She's also associate director for translational pharmacology at the Center of Orphan Drug Research. With over many years of experience in rare diseases, she's our ambassador. She's constantly in support of our patients, always trying to look for how to get them connected to the right people, how to accelerate to find out a resolution for them, as well as giving us all the highlights about researchers, bringing in stellar academic researchers to talk about various conditions. Over to you, Reena.
Thanks, Harsha, for the kind introduction, and welcome to all of you who are here to mark the International Rare Disease Day 2026. So in line with the recent advances in rare diseases, we at IndoUSrare are honored to welcome Professor James Levine, our esteemed guest today, who is a leading innovator in healthcare and biotechnology. Now, Dr. Levine is currently the president of Fondation Ipsen. It's a leading European science communication foundation. It's also a patient advocacy organization dedicated to advancing scientific knowledge and global research networks. Now, Dr. Levine spent over 30 years at Mayo Clinic as an active physician and healthcare innovator. He got his basic degree. He's got his MD and PhD from the Royal Free Hospital, University of Cambridge. And from UK, he moved to the Mayo Clinic, and where he did his postgraduate training in internal medicine and endocrinology. So his focus of his clinical practice and research had been in metabolism, obesity, and interestingly, the physiology of physical inactivity. He has over 120 publications to his credit, mostly in top-notch journals like Science, Nature, New England Journal of Medicine, and people who are in the research area will know how esteemed they are and how difficult it is to get publication in those journals, and has also authored several books globally in multiple languages and also made documentaries. So you know how active and busy this Dr. Professor Levine is. And in addition to his medical background, he also has an MBA from Harvard Business School. He's a very successful entrepreneur with over 100 plus patents, founded 35 companies, and is globally recognized as a leader in healthcare. And I know that you are not here to hear from me, but from the Professor Levine directly. So let's get started with our conversation. So to start us off here, Professor Levine, could you briefly share what brought you into the rare disease space? As I mentioned, you were trained as an internist, as an endocrinologist, and has been focused on obesity and diabetes. But what brought you here?
Well, first of all, Reena, a huge thank you for inviting me, and it's such a pleasure and an honor to be involved in this extraordinary organization. And the need for increased activity, just as described, between India, the United States, and worldwide, is extraordinarily important. And it is my pleasure to be here. And the first comment I'd like to make is, you know, I have made a personal fork in the road from working in obesity and metabolic disease, some of the most common disorders in the world, to working in rare diseases, because what happened was that my father's wife, my stepmom, developed an ultra rare disease. She started off as a professor of English at UC Berkeley and ended up being unable to walk, unable to talk, unable to control physiological functions. And no one ever discovered what was wrong with her. The progressive decline was over 6 years, and she died 4 months ago. My dad was her caregiver. And to see rare disease in action, to see that they went through 6 years of medical evaluation without diagnosis, sort of inspired a sort of an ultimate change in my own life. And just as we've heard, there are 300 million people in the world who need therapies in rare disease. That's about 1 in 17 people.
Mhm.
And that is in all countries. And 95% of those individuals do not have an approved therapy. And you might say, well, what's the link with metabolic disease, with common disease? And actually, what's really fascinating from a research perspective, I don't know if the researchers and yourself agree, is that in a sense, rare disease experimentally is one of the most purest exemplars of physiological function. Think of PSK9 and cholesterol, CFTR and lung biology, gene therapy platforms, and how they teach us that if you change one gene, how the physiology of the whole person changes. And so what I think is really important is not only is this a global moral medicine issue, but also rare disease science is not niche science, it's frontier science.
Yep. I completely agree on that. And yeah, I guess the question and then is like, how do we address that? I mean, I know globally there are so much gaps, and as somebody who came from the outside field, I call it as outside because you have a bigger picture than many of us who are focused on rare genetic diseases. Like, what are the gaps or certain unmet needs that you see that needs to be immediately talked about?
Okay, oh, thank you, Reena. I mean, I see 5 specific gaps. And I think if we start to think about rare disease as a network, or you might say, well, there are lots of little diseases around the world, but it is the mass, it is the en masse, it is the network of rare disease organizations, just as you're doing at IndoUSrare Rare, that is
Hmm.
absolutely critical. And I see 5 key gaps. The first one is the diagnostic gap. is,
Yep.
as I just was explaining with Amala, there was the 5 to 7 year gap is an average delay in diagnosis. Patients on average, and we're now talking about high income countries, see 6 to 8 physicians.
Yeah.
In contrast, for example, I work in, as you may be aware, in Nairobi, in Kenya, there are no specialist physicians in the rural areas. And so, in fact, the city visit is a massive limitation for a patient to actually get any form of evaluation at all. And what is critically important as well is that 40% of patients are misdiagnosed, which means they get a lot of resources, a lot of medical care that is actually incorrect. Now, if we cut that diagnostic delay in half, if we improve education amongst healthcare providers and physicians, ultimately those costs will be reduced and those outcomes, by definition, must get better. So that's number one. Number two is there's obviously a therapy gap. Now, it's extraordinary for 300 million people who need therapy. There are only about 500 to 700 approved therapies.
Yeah.
95% of people go untreated. Now, if you say, well, okay, all these rare diseases of individual, but if you take cancer as a concept, there's not one treatment for cancer. There are lots of little individual cancers, work for different organs, different systems, and each one has a separate therapeutic modality. So think about it that way. Therefore, it's even more extraordinary that you have all these multiple diseases and nearly all, the massive majority, have no therapy, the therapeutic gap. The third is the investment gap. Now, what's really interesting is when we, others and ourselves, but when we analyze mergers and acquisition data, what happens to biotechs when they're acquired by larger biotechs, companies, or investors? What percentage of those investments result in treatments coming to patients who need them? The answer is only about 10%. So there's a drug development failure rate of about, amazingly, 80 to 90%, right? And so traditional venture capital, as you might appreciate, must struggle with these small populations, these small markets, and what they potentially concern as being small financial opportunities. And so one of the things we're very interested in, for example, is, how can you solve these problems? One of the ways is through venture philanthropy, is where the patient associations are driving investment, and those investments are driving therapies. And of course, it worked exceptionally well in cystic fibrosis, where there is a major therapy through this kind of approach for 80% of people living with cystic fibrosis. And it absorbs early risk. And most importantly, it is an investment mechanism for investing in early stage discovery. So there's an investment gap. The fourth gap is the data gap. As we've discussed, rare diseases, let's say that a rare disease may have 100 or 200 or 1,000 or 2,000 people living worldwide. Well, what's extraordinary there is if all of those people were collated, if we knew who the people in Germany, who people in India, who people in Japan, China, USA, et cetera, with that disease are, if we had the catalog, there are several implications for that. The first implication is it creates the market that drives the investment I just discussed. Second of all, it allows scientists to look across the genomic scheme, the genomic scan of all of these patients, who could all be genome scanned in the modern era, and identify the common genetic mutations or problems. Importantly, if you're now developing a trial and you actually have all of the patients or most of the patients with the given disease, you actually have a sufficiently large patient population for trials, even with natural history trials where you're monitoring the effectiveness in real time, to actually apply those trials. So there's a data gap. And fifth and finally, there is the global equity gap. This is critically important, and I think really puts me in awe of the work you do. 80% of patients with rare disease live outside the United States and or the European Union. Yet 80% of trials occur within the European Union or United States. There is a massive global equity gap. And so the answer to your question is I see these 5 gaps: the diagnostic gap, therapeutic gap, the investment gap, the data gap, and the global equity gap.
Yeah, I think that is all really, you have put it so concisely and very precisely. They identified the different gaps. And I feel like each of them is important. Actually, we need to address all of them at the same time, which is not possible. And when it comes to innovation, when people talk about innovation, they usually think about the therapeutic gap. And all the other gaps are never talked about or never even comes in, especially in the young individual, young future leader's mind. It's always, let's come up with a treatment. There is no treatment. But in your viewpoint, again, how do you see innovation in rare disease? What comes to mind other than like what other areas should people be thinking about?
I mean, Reena, I couldn't agree with you more. But we will not forget the importance of therapeutic gaps. But we have discussed clearly the need for new therapies and
Mm-hmm.
many more therapies. That's unquestionable. But I think what's very, very interesting is to think about where innovation exists beyond therapy. And to me, there are what I would call system innovations.
Yeah.
Okay, so and what's very powerful about these is system innovations are those that exist right across the rare disease community. And I see sort of three big opportunities: diagnostics, financing, and care delivery. Let me just quickly break those down. Diagnostics. We, I mean, the elephant in the room, if you like, is of course artificial intelligence. But AI plus genomics can reduce diagnostic time by potentially, we already are looking at projections at potentially at 50%, can improve diagnostic accuracy substantially. And we've already seen data to this paper just been published in Nature from China that literally looks at this issue. And you might say, my goodness, AI it's not going to be appropriate for medicine, for healthcare providers. Where's the empathy? But in rare disease, it's particularly important because there is no physician on earth who's educated in 11,000 rare diseases. And in fact, AI is particularly useful for that kind of application, understanding and educating in specific diseases. In terms also of understanding these system innovations, there are clinical trial innovations, so systematic trial innovation opportunities. And again, if you take that example of an ultra-rare disease where there are 1,000 people, as we discussed, across the world, you can appreciate if there's a system whereby all of these people come to the same trial from right around the world, including the diagnostic, the inclusion criteria, the exclusion criteria, and whether it's a natural history trial, that could potentially reduce time to market, but we estimate by 20 to 40%, and the cost of clinical trials by 30 to 50%. The third systematic opportunity we believe is in financing. And I touched on this before. You know, if you work with venture capitalists and see venture firms, first of all, there are multiple niche firms who really see these opportunities in biotech, quick biotech, smart biotech, and of course, the special licensing that occurs in rare diseases. But we also live in an environment, and again, we need to face reality. It's sort of currently called the December or the winter of investment. There seems to be a downturn in hunger for investment. However, I would argue that based on what we're talking about and the investments outside of pure therapy, the system-based investments, there are huge and substantial investment opportunities in this space, and alternate finance mechanisms are coming to the fore. Finally, and perhaps the biggest opportunity for innovation is in care delivery. When I was out with IndoUSrare 2 years ago in Delhi, one of the companies presenting was a phenomenal young gentleman who presented his innovation with his team for a toilet seat that would operate for people with handicap. And this could be installed in any corporation, in any public toilet, anywhere in the world. I thought it was total genius. And why do I think that's an important example? Because that's an example of an innovation in the rare disease space that improves care, not just for one rare disease, but 300 million people living with with the whole community with rare diseases. And I think about my dad, who's a caregiver for people living with rare diseases. If there are 350 million people living with rare disease, 300 million without treatment, for every one of those people, there's 1 to 2 caregivers. That's a caregiver community of almost 500 million people. And so I therefore view the system innovations as probably or possibly being even bigger than the therapeutic innovations across diagnostics, financing, care delivery, trials, and in right across the caregiver space.
I mean, I think that you have given such great ideas for the next generation. I mean, all of these, many a times people look at with a small view, they don't look at the big picture. And I believe putting this in perspective, like the way you have given the numbers, is so very important. And do you have any suggestions or recommendations on the strategies that we can adopt as an organization at IndoUSrare to promote this kind of innovation, to think beyond, think out of the box?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
should tell you, the individual who presented about that toilet seat is actually will be giving an update in our meet and greet session. So he's on the call.
I am so happy. I'd love to hear how he's doing. I mean, I think the whole organization, his company is brilliant, and he's amazing. So I can't wait to see him. So yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that's quite important in terms of identifying strategies that are working, and I don't mean to say this in a sugary way, but the first thing to recognize is that IndoUSrare is working. Right. At the top of this meeting today, we heard a catalog of impact, success, everywhere from communication to interns to research to connectivity and so on and so forth. I mean, I think we need, and I'm being deadly serious, I think we need 10 or maybe 100 more IndoUSrares. I mean, seriously, strength to you all, and thank you for the work you do. It's an extraordinary organization. So I think that's very, very important. And along those lines, I mean, I think, again, I would think about what are the strategies that are working and can be amplified that you are engaged in, and I could see being sort of, you could almost be used as the exemplar. I see sort of five general areas. The first thing I see is multi-stakeholder collaboration.
Yeah.
Now, we know in rare disease, rare diseases are very unusual. For example, if you go to the floor of the FDA, if you go to MHRA or EMS, that's in the United States, Europe, or the UK, rare diseases are unique because people living with rare diseases present to the policymakers, to the people who give the yes or no or provisional for the new medicines coming through. So it's a unique healthcare enterprise where people living with rare diseases are critical stakeholders in what happens next. The pharmaceutical companies are at the table and are listening and are talking to patients. But the multi-stakeholders go way beyond that. We're talking about policy providers, entrepreneurs, capitalists, venture capitalists, banks, investors. And I would be thinking even beyond that. So, for example, the investment opportunity in India as a hub, for example, for genetic therapy. I mean, you could imagine, just like many medicines are produced in India at the highest possible quality and exported across the world, maybe gene therapies could be produced in India. So there are very, very big multi-stakeholder opportunities because this space is very, very big. Number two, strategies that work, communication. Rare Disease Day is a day where we talk about rare diseases. But again, think of the work that you do at IndoUSrare and the reach of the capacity to communicate now with social media across the world. As our organization, we reach every year 10.5 million people. Our books physically are distributed to over 1 million people in 108 countries in 84 languages. Now, I'm not saying that to boast. I'm saying that to explain that organizations, for the first time in history, have the capacity to reach right across the world and in every respect, and the capacity to touch people's eyeballs, which is remarkable. And I think that is, we're living this world now, and we need to exploit it on behalf of the 300 million people who need our help. The other strategies that are working now. Venture philanthropy is, again, something we're very interested in because not only in cystic fibrosis, but across 26 other patient organizations, we've seen charities operate as venture organizations, generating profit, not only just for the charity, but also potentially for investors. And we looked at this and we published this in a journal article in the journal Rare. And we saw over $1 billion in assets and 760 million annual revenue in this kind of approach. So in other words, I mean, you might say, well, those are big numbers, but that's bigger or about the size of the entire budget of the NIH. right? So these kind of different ways of thinking about money are
Mhm.
very important. The other strategy that's working, and I touched on this before, is regulatory engagement. Regulatory engagement with rare diseases not only occurs where patients come to the FDA physically to explain we need a treatment, but also at the level of IndoUSrare Rare. The idea that you are engaging directly with the approval agencies in India in the same way that UK organizations are working with MHRA. And we're living in unique times.
Mhm.
The regulators know that artificial intelligence is coming or has come. They are engaging AI and they know it's particularly relevant in rare diseases. And so again, even in regulatory, we're dealing in a unique era of opportunity in rare diseases. And last, the other thing that's really working, and today is the testament of that. I'm speaking to you from Los Angeles. Reena, you're in Minnesota. Other members of the audience are in India. Global collaboration. We're beyond, and I think this is one of the spin-offs of COVID, actually, is that we're
Yeah.
also accustomed to being on Zoom meetings. We know that this is I haven't traveled anywhere for this meeting, nor have you. And that
Mhm.
is extremely powerful. So these strategies are working. Multi-stakeholder collaboration, effective international communication, new ways of funding rare
Mhm.
disease innovation, regulatory engagement, and global collaboration. And together we can really accelerate dramatically.
Yeah, and I would add that, I mean, we can also record these sessions so that it is available for any audience who joining later on. I see a question on the chat box. So how can collaborations between uh, researchers, clinicians, and industry leaders speed up treatments for rare diseases? I think collaboration is key, and that is the most important
So
thing.
again, I know our time together is limited, but if I may, very, very quickly,
Sure.
my personal opinions, quite frankly, are completely irrelevant. What is much more important are what do the data teach us?
Mm-hmm.
And the data teaches that when you actually look at, remember I mentioned before, we published this paper in Nature where we looked at mergers and acquisition deals that failed to produce treatments. And we asked the question, well, why were there not treatments? And we identified very, very key factors. And one of the key factors as to why a biotech fails is because they have failed to bring together the key stakeholders. Okay, so a very specific answer to the question is almost the answer is almost the opposite to the question is you cannot succeed without stakeholder collaboration. So if you're and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of the startups coming next. But
Mm-hmm.
as you listen to the startups, if I may, to all of us listening right now to the startups, think to yourself, have they engaged the stakeholders? Because if they haven't, that
Yeah.
will not succeed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the answer to the question. It is compulsory to engage stakeholders. And so if you're listening and if you've got a young biotech, wherever you're in, do it.
Yeah, I think that is a really important message. And there's this another question about, could you please further elaborate on bridging the global inequity gap so that there is faster access to 80% of the population with rare diseases?
Um,
How to bridge the
no, no, no,
inequity?
no, I understand the question. I
Mhm.
understand the question. Um, the reason I pause is it is a profound question.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
straight answer.
no. It is a profound question, and the reason I think it is a profound question is because, again, as an organization, one of the groups of people we work with is journalists. We fund 22 journalists every year across the world to report. We train these journalists in rare disease and they report. In fact, the journalist last year who won the All India Award for journalism went through our training and reported on rare disease. Now, one of the articles I remember reading was an article about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
which is where the skin is very plastic. It's a horrible, horribly difficult illness without a cure, without a treatment, effective treatment. And it was a patient in Ghana. And the inequities were as follows: stigmatization, lack of compassion, financial financial isolation, the cost of the parent having to be at home, often, as you know, 80% of the time it's the mother, the lack of access to expertise, the lack of access to diagnostics, the lack of experts, not even to therapies, but also supportive therapies like kinesiology, physical therapy, and so on and so forth. Now,
And there's also lack of belief, right? The physicians many times don't believe the patient when they're reporting, especially in the
lack of education, 100%, lack of societal awareness, 100%. So now, if you take that one patient, and everything you say, I agree with, the questioner is asking a question: is how do you take that patient and move them to the sophisticated medical clinic of Delhi or to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, whatever it may be? And the answer, the fundamental answer, has to be systematic. Do you remember I spoke before about systematic approaches, whether those are in trials, diagnostic, AI diagnosis, supported diagnosis, which obviously is going to be critically important worldwide, but particularly in underserved countries, access to medicines that wouldn't normally be available, but through networks and so on and so forth. So the fundamental answer to the question, without giving me 2 hours to discuss it in depth, is the building of systematic solutions across multiple tiers. And that is the answer to the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have also answered the other question that is on the chat box. And because we don't have a lot of time, I think in my introduction, I talked about you as an entrepreneur, as a physician, as an advocate. The one thing I forgot to mention is you are a professor. You really are a good teacher. I think within this short 30 minutes, we all learned a lot. I mean, we learned what are the major gaps in rare disease space, where the innovators should be looking at, what are the strategies to stimulate new innovations. And one other point I would add is even in educating, I think with the gaps in finance and data and all that, we need to educate a larger group. It's not just the physicians. There is also the economists or individuals who are in the advocacy space, in the caregiver space. They all need to be educated and they need to be aware of these rare diseases. So without taking too much time from our next group of Pitch for Rare winners, thank you so much for your time today, and it's our honor and pleasure. I guess there's one other question. What one thing should be prioritized for 2026? It's from Harsha.
The answer is commitment. There is a fundamental need for the work you're doing. And just in your heart, believe that you can make a difference, because I promise you, you are.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking Professor James Levine for his time today. Please stay online so that you can hear to the Pitch for Rare contest.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, bye-bye. Srinitha, if you can share the screen again. So now we will move to the second segment of this program today for the Rare Disease Day. We wanted to just hear from our Pitch for Rare contest. So in the introduction, Mr. Govindarajan talked about our Pitch for Rare contest, where we are trying to stimulate innovation. As you heard, there are a lot of gaps in this rare disease area, and we are trying to promote innovation. And this is one of the strategy is by you putting together this Pitch for Rare contest. And this is our second year. I mean, last year we did our second round of the competition, and of the 4 groups that were selected as winners, I think only 3 were able to make it today. So let's get started with the meet and greet with our Pitch for Rare. So I think if you can, the next slide, please. So yeah, we have IUVA Labs, CRISPR Bits, and Kate Innovations here today. So that's Dr. Khalsasi, Dr. Arora, and Raghu Digala, who will be on screen now. If you can, I don't see them, so if you can.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. We can spotlight them, Mrs. Srinitha. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. You can stop sharing now. I think that's fine. I guess we'll have them talk about who they are. And so let's start by maybe a quick introduction. If you can introduce who you are and also tell about your innovation. So I'm going to start with you, Reeti, because you're on the top of the screen.
Sure. Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Reeti Arora. I head the R&D at CRISPR Bits. We're a startup based out of Bangalore, India, and we work on every bit of CRISPR. As our name suggests, CRISPR Bits. We're, of course, taking CRISPR technology forward into diagnostics, into therapy, into services. Here I'm representing thank you so much. I mean, last year's I attended the event in India, in I think 2024, and we won the pitch for rare, and we got the encouragement and support from you, and I think one of the questions was, what we had presented and where we're at. So if now is a good time, I can talk now, or should I come back?
We can come back to that. So maybe Raghu, if you can, sure. Raghu, if you can quickly introduce who you are and then the technology.
Sure. Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity and congratulations on this day. Many more amazing days to come. So I represent Kitech Innovations as founder and managing director, an assistive technology company developing adaptive hygiene solutions. That's where we've presented during the last years. The product we've designed is Guco Bidet. Bidet is an instrument which is retrofitted in the restroom, and I'm so glad that you people remember and acknowledge the fact that this is most important thing. That really means a lot to us. Through the interactions, how this kicked in was through the interactions with persons with disabilities, including myself being a part of the community, had faced a lot of issues during the public restrooms, which is a pretty niche area. People really don't want to talk because they feel it's very personal space. So we have had our conversations during the Purple Fest, which happens in India once in a year. And we have interacted with organizations like yours and also another organization called Bharat MD Foundation from Hyderabad. So that's where we realize the need to create such product, because again, therapies, etc., is always a game plan. But if an innovative instrument can also be an add-on, probably that can be a lot of change in the mindsets and difference in the lives. So what we've designed is very simple. It's a two-way operation. It operates through hand actuator, and it also had a pedal system because we wanted to give them the choice to use and make it more independent. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Vihang, if you can talk about your technology. So you were the winner from last year, 2025 contest.
Yes, November 2025. Yeah, so good morning and good evening to everyone. It's a great honor to be here on this platform of Rare Disease Day. I'm Vihang. I am a co-founder and chief scientific officer at Yuva Labs. We are a biotech startup incubated out of IIT Bombay in Mumbai. So in the rare disease, the pitch for rare event, what we presented was about a protein, a precision fermented protein that can be useful for food for PKU patients. I think we'll talk more about it when next set of questions come. But once again, thank you so much for hosting something like this. It was very insightful to even listen to Dr. Levine. I'm quite excited to be here and connected with this community.
Thank you. Yeah, so maybe now we can just talk about what progress you have made. I know it's just been 2 years or maybe less than a few months for you, Vihang, but if there are further updates from what you had presented or what you had shared with us during the contest, maybe Reeti, if you can get started.
Sure, I'll just quickly share my slide. I just have one slide, but I think the host needs to enable screen sharing. So if that can be done. Yeah, give me a minute. There we go. You should be able to see my slide. Can you see my slide?
Yeah.
All right. So basically what I presented was that in the rare disease space, we are working on our platform PathCrisp, which we have used to be able to detect sickle cell anemia. So how it works is we have CRISPR-based diagnostics. And what I'm showing you here, when I presented, we had just sort of started off. And I'm happy to say we've actually validated this over 144 samples now. And this has become a platform for any single nucleotide polymorphism mononuclear disorder. So we're taking this forward for many, many rare disorders. Of course, sickle cell was important too, and sickle cell was our base and platform and validation and verification. But, happy to show you that how it works is, there are two guides. And as you can see, when it's healthy or wild type phenotype, it is red is higher, which is the guide that specifically binds to the non-SNP or the GAG in this case genotype. When blue is higher, it detects the disease, sickle cell disease, the GTG phenotype. And when both are present, it's the heterozygous or the trait. So we can actually detect carrier status in the population and, even use this for surveillance data for a large number of diseases where we don't even know carrier status so far for, especially in the Indian population. So we are taking this forward for a few surveillance, and we have now we applied for CDSCO clearance for this test as a kit. It looks like this little box. We've lyophilized all these reagents, so it's cold temperature compatible. We're able to take it to the field. We are hopeful to get some Gates Foundation funding to take this forward for a clinical and field testing setting right now. So we're in a good space. And for the Curie CRISP, which is our intent to cure platform, where we have CRISPR gene editing, where the idea is we take patient-derived blood and then generate iPSC lines from that, and then using the CRISPR ENF and Cas9 edit it to generate a preclinical model. Here we're still in our early stages, but we have recruited our first patient. We have got blood, and we have in the process of generating iPSC lines. That's where we're at. I'll just stop sharing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It looks like there is a lot of progress and going in the right direction. I'll be following you and trying to figure out where you are launching your clinical trial.
Yes,
Good luck with that. Yeah. Raghu, maybe if you can give an...
It's been around 1 year, I guess, since we've won that amazing award. So we have actually moved from MVPs to that of real-time usage. So very proud to say that we have distributed 120 units at International Purple Fest 2025 October, the biggest distribution that happened. Not just to the institutions, but to the direct end users. And what we realized is the happiness that they have shown with a small product, the change that can have in their life. That was the biggest progress I can mention, because they did not just share about the feedback, but also how this is important in their daily life. Even the caregivers was telling us like this can actually help them, to have that hygiene cleaning within the restroom. And another update is we have been got into a couple of incubations also, like NSR cell incubated for one of the upcoming project that probably I'll share in the next milestones. So typically, if I have to summarize, it's been really worthwhile waiting for 3.5 years to kick off something which is not spoken. And this product is not just in households, it's also in hospitals now. Sunshine Hyderabad has procured 10 units, and because we also realize patients require this, because I don't want to put it only for person with disabilities, but to any person who requires this extra assistance during the restrooms, I think the answer is Kukopide.
Thank you. Thank you for that update, and good luck with your progress. And now Vihang?
Yeah. Great listening to these innovations. It's very inspiring to actually listen to all these stories. I'll just quickly take a minute to explain what we are trying to make. Phenylketonuria, I think the community is already aware. It's a rare genetic disease wherein the affected person is not able to utilize or metabolize phenylalanine, which is an amino acid present in most proteins. And all natural foods generally contain some traces of phenylalanine. What happens is that after the baby is born, the baby is given normal food, the mother's milk and everything, and there's obviously some phenylalanine present, and then that accumulates in the blood, it accumulates in the nervous system, and then it triggers severe neurodegeneration. The affected person has a very poor quality of life and very short survival as a result of this whole entire thing. What solutions they have currently available are 3 amino acid formulas, basically, which is just a mixture of different purified amino acids. They are quite bitter in taste, they don't have a good mouthfeel, and then they also have poor absorption in your gut. So what we thought is that, we are basically a precision fermentation company, wherein we develop platform technologies to develop proteins for food applications using genetic engineering and precision fermentation. So we developed a whey protein, the normal whey that we have. We have already developed our clone to make this whey protein at scale through recombinant DNA technology and precision fermentation. So we thought, why not just alter some amino acids in the original sequence of the whey protein and make it suitable for PKU patients. So that's the basic idea over here. We want to use computational biology and AI-assisted protein modeling to actually come up with a sequence of this particular protein, which will not have any phenylalanine in it, but it is still stable, it is still foldable, it can still express and can still be made at a large scale. So that's what the idea, that's what we pitched here at Pitch for Rare in a couple of months ago. We received a great feedback and we were declared winners. So that was really very encouraging for us. It has been very short time since we developed this particular idea, but we have reached out to some organizations, maybe patient advocacy groups through LinkedIn and through other social media. and we have sort of communicated it to them that this is what we are trying to make. There hasn't been anything tangible yet. It's been a very short while, but I would like to take opportunity for through this platform to talk about it. And if anybody over here has any connections in the PKU community, in any such rare disease patient advocacy groups, or any any such groups wherein we can approach them and maybe raise funds or get some grants to work more on this particular idea, I would definitely appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the next questions are pretty general, and maybe not everybody will have an answer, but I was just trying to figure out like what was the biggest lesson or pivot in your journey so far, and like whether the feedback from mentors, judges during this contest, like people who you have networked, has enabled you. How, like, give some examples where being on this platform has helped you. Whoever wants to go first can go first.
So to be okay, Riti, you want to go?
No, please go ahead. Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
Great.
Go ahead.
So not had too many conversations with this existing community, but there's one organization works in the similar field, Bharat MD Foundation, where we hosted them in one of our events. So that's where I realized a lot of learnings has to happen, because we cannot be just fixed with a couple of production designs and say, hey, this is going to solve everybody's problem, because there's 21 sectors of disability plus is there, and also the elderly population is growing every time, and the patients are increasing every day. So a product is a product. At the end of the day, the user interface is really good, but then how it fits into the entire ecosystem was something really learning for us also, because I'm very new into this particular field. So these learnings, and mentors being mentors, are always pretty nice and decent, being harsh at the same time. But at the end of the day, that was the real learning. They're being very apt, and understanding an entrepreneur with disability has not to be treated like an inspiration pawn, but as a true business person. So these two conversations really put me on, updated, and we are focusing on that. And I'll be very honest, we cannot really give a solution that matches everybody's requirement, but we are trying to at least match to people's requirement that are really there in our low-hanging fruits. Yeah.
Yeah. Preeti?
Yeah, I so for us, I think the meeting itself was really helpful, because we connected with a lot of people, a lot of patients and patient groups. I am still in touch with all of them, and although we're not ready yet to support everybody, but we hope that our Curicris platform builds quickly and we are able to offer that support of iPSC generation for a large number of patient groups. That, and as well as the diagnostic meetups that happen on the side after the meeting, those have been very helpful, because we learned about newborn screening. So they've given us certain ideas of how to take things forward, connected with some of the doctors offline as well, got their opinion. So those are always, I guess, just sort of understanding various stakeholder perspectives, as Dr. Levine was also saying, is also very important in opening our perspective and building the product forward. So those have definitely been, besides the encouragement, those have been definitely great help and learnings from IndoUSrare.
Thank you. Vihang, anything to add? Or I know you're pretty new, but
Yeah, but it was a great platform. It was a great visibility to talk about your idea in front of experts. We got very good feedback from them. In fact, we connected with one of the panelists after the call. We walked them through what exactly we are doing, and then gained some more insights in our overall journey. So I believe it was very helpful. And I wish that even through this event or upcoming events, I will get more and more connections and more traction towards developing this idea further.
yeah, I mean, if you need help connecting to physicians who are taking care of patients, reach out to me. That would be something which I can help you with. And finally, like, I just wanted, before we close out, I know we have, if I don't see any questions in the chat, but there are some resources provided for you all, individuals. But the last question would be like, what is your immediate next milestone, or what kind of partnership or support would accelerate your path forward? Reeti, maybe you can start.
So our immediate next milestone, as I mentioned, for the diagnostic path CRISP assay, we want to take it for CDSCO clearance and launch it as a kit. We're already doing field trials. We've been in conversations with 2 trusts and taking that forward for screening. I think what we want to do, and we would love help in that, is narrowing down monogenic disorders where such screening or such heterozygous trait could be an important field testing trial. So we can very quickly convert that, but then one, identifying the need, and also then, of course, funding for that kind of study forward. And then, taking that forward into then applying it to platforms like newborn screening and important segues. And the other milestone, we're very excited. I mean, I know iPSC generation takes several months. That's just the science of it. But we are in the process of generating it for one particular skin disorder patient. And hopefully by summer, we should have the line characterized, and then we will, attempt preclinical testing with CRISPR. So those would be an exciting milestones. And as, of course, happy to find out more funding resources, more ways of sort of connecting with patients and seeing how we can take this forward.
Yeah, how about you, Raghu? What is your next
A
milestone?
couple of good milestones actually within this particular 6 months, and we started focusing on portable accessible toilets. Because when we travel or we have spaces that have events, and I've personally been to Purple Fest being a core team members. So the challenging was again, not just a bidet enough, it's an entire system of the restroom. So we were like, hey, come on, you have to address a bigger picture now. And the bigger picture is the restroom itself. So now we are in ideations and we are trying to create a design as per the RPWD Act of 2016, where it has to be accessible and etc. And we are reaching out for the funds and the grants to help us in creating an ideation into a MVP again. And then probably during the next Purple Fest, we wanted to demonstrate one unit and show the people that even the accessible toilet can be portable and which can also be accessible for every individual. That's one milestone that we've really working towards. And the second thing is the continuous awareness sessions, because I know people know the importance of it, but the need and the necessity is something which is the missing link. And I'm particularly focusing on that particular area. And the need that probably, we call it ask in all our pitching. So the simple ask could be, again, as we've mentioned in one of the chat, that B2G has been really loop circus conversations for us, and reaching beyond the vicinity of our own people is something which, it's sapping a lot of time and inputs. So probably if you all can pitch up and connect us to the ecosystem, because one point I would reiterate what you and the guest spoke in the initial. If the stakeholders collaboration doesn't happen, I think the startup stays as a startup. So that's where we really like interference of your organizations that have been amazingly doing work in this field. If you can come support and share the connections that we can probably reach out to, and we are ready to deliver what we have promised. So in simple, my only dream is accessibility should not just be where people enter a room or a space. If the restroom is not accessible, trust me, the mental health is going to be a biggest challenge. So yeah, these are the needs and the milestones, and I'll keep sharing what's happening around with
that would be really helpful. And I guess communication is another important key. I mean, stakeholders, meeting all stakeholders is important, but communicating with them timely and giving them updates is also important. Vihang, did you have, maybe you can just talk us about your immediate milestone and a long-term one?
Yeah, so immediate milestone would be to raise funds through either grants or any industry early stage investments, because as I told you, we just presented it a couple of months ago and we are at an ideation stage right now. We really want to have more traction with this, to hire people and to get resources and to start building something on these lines. And then again, as I already said, connecting it with different organizations who are working in the PKU space will definitely give us more visibility, more connections, and then take things forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess before we close, I just wanted to see if Professor Levine had anything to tell you all, because he was listening. Looks like he's on the call. Or Harsha, if you wanted to add anything to the... Yeah, Professor Levine, please go ahead.
No, thank you so much. I mean, the themes that are coming out from these extraordinary companies is the need not only for networking, but I would say internationalization. And I don't know the answer, but I'm certainly interested in the question. And Reena, maybe you and I will speak offline subsequently. But I mean, just keep going, and I'm going to think about what we can do to sort of move that part of this forwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Levine. Harsha?
Yeah, thank you so much. And wonderful to hear updates from all of you, and want to keep this a continuous engagement to see how we can be supportive as you make progress. You know, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, I know the reality is way more difficult than you guys make it look on this call, right? So we know that. So if you would be willing to share, like be a bit more vulnerable and share what practical challenges you're facing, where you're really needing help, how we can be helpful in supporting your journey.
Yeah, I think Harsha has already put in the chat. So we will be hosting events in India. So that may be a place where you can connect in person with the network, meet all the stakeholders. But also the Pitch for Rare contest is also being planned for the fourth quarter or the third quarter of this year. And stay tuned for the future entrepreneurs who are wanting to pitch on our platform. Again, this has been a really good discussion, a conversation. Professor Levine, thank you so much for all the insights you have offered. I believe that everybody has something to think about and some angle that they want to focus in as they're thinking about innovation in rare diseases. So with that, I think there is one more slide that I wanted to show you because today is Rare Disease Day. And as part of that, Srinitha, if you can highlight the crossword. So we are launching a crossword puzzle. It's on social media, and we would encourage all people who are attending to participate. So it is on our handle, I believe. Ramya or Srinitha, if you want to talk more about this. But thank you all for being here today, and I'll turn it over to Ramya or Srinitha, who's that.
Yeah, thanks, Reena. So we would like all of you to participate in the crossword puzzle, and we'll be sharing the link in the chat box. So this is a challenge, an online challenge, and we encourage everyone to participate. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. We are up on the hour. And again, I believe this has been useful. Everybody learned quite a bit, and thank you for providing the updates. It's always interesting to see where you are and the progress you're making. And as Harsha mentioned, keep us posted. Feel free to reach out. We'll try to make the connections that is possible. And I will also continue to have conversation with Professor Levine to think about how can we bring this globally. And so again, have a good weekend. Have a good Rare Disease Day. Looks like there are a lot of programs streaming online. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you all for the opportunity. Thanks.
Happy Rare Disease Day. Bye.
Happy